Hey, everybody. How's it going? Well, it happened. Daylight savings is here. We now have an extra hour of daylight. Yes! For like what? Like the next 6 months? Can we count them? From March to April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. That's like 8 months. In fact, it is 8 months. Sometimes I have to do this just to keep things straight. It helps me to like keep my numbers together. Yeah. You know, I'm always going on about, oh, I didn't turn on my faux fireplace there. You know, I'm always going on about this is like a monologue, but not like it is a monologue. This is fully an improvised monologue that I'm offering right now. Call it cold open. You know, I'm always going on about the seeming inability of people to do basic math anymore. If you haven't heard me go on about it, cut yourself lucky. You know, I've been recording this entire podcast series, very unorthodox, because that's who I am. And I haven't released any of it yet. I'm going to on SoundCloud eventually, but I have a bunch of material that I need to listen to. And not all of it is, I think, not all of it, some of it's just too experimental. You know, some of it's just too, it just pushes the buttons, it just pushes the buttons too much. And that's what artists do, though, is that we push the buttons. It's most definitely what David Wojnarowicz did. History keeps me awake at night. What keeps you awake at night? You know, that was a question that was once posed to me when I was still in high school, actually. It's just coming back to me now, but you know, that's the way embodied performance works, when your body and your mind are working together, not separately. I've been really lucky and really fortunate, very, very, very structurally advantaged to be where I am in my life and in the world, and to have the kind of life that I actually not just like, but love. You know, at the same time that, you know, all of that violence out there in the world is happening because of the pandemic, because of anti-Blackness, because of white supremacy, because of geopolitics and imperialisms, which have merely been renovated, or there's been some shifting on the chessboard. It's just ridiculous, you know? And the way that I found myself enlightened was by just literally tuning out all of that garbage and just trying to do what I understood to be the right thing because of the people who have mentored me. And that goes back to the question of what keeps you up at night? You know, at the end of my junior year, my stomach's growling because I had a keto muffin that I made in a mug in my microwave with almond flour, which is amazing. A tangent, my tangential thinking. It's called ramification. It's the mark of somebody who has 3 degrees like me and who is a highly trained critical thinker, which is to say critical theorist. And what I've been trying to do over the last, really since the last time spring went forward, around this time last year, it was actually earlier, it happened on the 8th last year, I double checked it last night. When last night I got confused performing and thought last night I was recording this episode that I'm recording now, I thought I was doing it last night. When in fact right now, I'm checking the time, right now we're still in the break. Okay, Google, what time is it? 3:41 a.m. daylight saving time, which they just added. Because when I asked earlier, they didn't have it. How do I get back to the first thread? The reason that I've been able to find such joy in recent months I mean, there's a lot of reasons, and it had a lot to do with turning away from all that. But in turning away from all that, right, the consumption of all that news media, the consumption of all that grief, the consumption of all that sensation, I mean, I was the fancy word would be cathected. I was like, you could say that I was addicted to the news media because it gave me a reason to be outraged. But I was already feeling outraged because of all the injustices in the world, because of all the oppression, because of all the shitty ways that people treat each other for all sorts of reasons. Some structural and some not. Instead of dealing with that emotion that I was already feeling because of other stuff, I never really worked it out. Instead, I just kept reading about the same shit over and over and over again. You know? And in finally turning away from all that, I mean, it helped that I quit drinking going on 4 years ago. It helped that I did yoga for 3 years straight. Moto yoga. I always do that with Moto Yoga and the team there in New York that I love so much, who gave me so much. You know, it helped that I got back into tennis, which, by the way, my anniversary of the break, and I've said this on episodes of my podcast, which I'm currently recording one, was March 13th last year. That was the last time I played tennis. My strings popped. It was the first time in my entire life playing tennis that my strings popped. Admittedly, I hadn't played tennis very regularly for about, 20 years when I got back to doing it, almost 3 years ago now, I suppose. I can't remember. I would have to check my Google Calendar. It's the inner game of tennis, right? That Harvard grad who ended up becoming a tennis pro and writing this best-selling self-help book, right? The inner game of tennis. I guess it's sort of like Zen in the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, which I've never read, but which is right up there. I can't remember whether it was given to me by somebody who hurt me very much, or whether I bought it myself because somebody who hurt me very much talked about it. I'm talking about years ago. The Inner Game of Tennis, I did read Matt Sandler, my longtime buddy. There's the growling again. My longtime buddy, who I used to talk for hours with. Walking the streets of downtown New York usually. Yeah, I have a couple of blemishes here. I was gonna do a chemical peel today, but I decided let me just keep... Anyway, if I were to get my ordinary tinted moisturizer, that would cover all of this up, but I haven't been so focused on that. Anywho, as my ex Arthur you would say, rather, I'm editing myself as I speak. You have to use your body and your mind. It's like working both sides of the stick in the way one of my Philly friends, Tony, put it to me when we first met, back in late August, early September, when I was going through yet another crisis in my series of crises this past summer, a lot of which is recorded. My one Healthy Choice tapes, the title wasn't mine. There's the growling again. That's my body starting to come alive as I note the time. Okay, Google, what time is it?
It's 3:49 a.m.
3:49 a.m. In 11 minutes, the transition will have concluded. And I'll go back inside and change the clocks. In my kitchen, where the clocks aren't digital. In this apartment on the top floor, the 1900. That is a building that was built in 1900 on W. Penn Street of all streets in Philadelphia. The founding fathers' capital of the United States of America. I found out that when I tuned out all of that garbage and violence and a kind of codependency, if you will, my phrasing, I'm talking for me, a kind of codependency on that, right? Chaos, right, is attention grabbing. Because we're living in an increasingly attention-oriented society. Digitization is like globalization. It just keeps coming and coming and coming and coming and coming. Here I am not doing Stefan. Although Bill Hader is an influence. Hey Bill, if you're watching. Maybe not now, or when this gets published, but maybe sometime in the future, when eventually these tapes get discovered, if they haven't been discovered already. I found that I had the space to work more on my own stuff, right? To worry about my side of the street and to get back to the practice of making sure that I was doing everything I could to be as ethical as possible, as politico-ethical, or as ethico-political as possible. Which Robert Reed Farr, another one of my incredible mentors, read me as from the jump in our Introduction to Doctoral Studies course. He sussed me out as that 100%. And it was this language, actually, that I used, the term, the ethico-political, came from Sadia Abbas, my mentor at Rutgers in Newark, where I went to get an MFA in creative writing and ended up deciding to pursue a PhD because of her and because of Barbara Foley. And my speculation book that I've been stunting about on and off with my hashtag SMK spec and the diamond and all this stuff, that book is happening. And this is the audio-visual accompaniment to it. This is how I live my life. And perform my labor, which is acting. as a knowledge worker and communicator, and not just the disinformation age, but the digital age, because the two go hand in hand. And as some people might know, I love the combination DD almost as much as I love the combination of a good DP and a good DD. That one's for the grown-ups in the room. Oh, but I've said too much, or have I? Diviner, designer. Right. It's a very Derridian or very deconstructionist way of thinking, but through Spivak and Spillers and Hartman and Sharp and RRP and DeBoss and lots and other people. AD, my great AD. Yeah, I'm doing acknowledgements, but I'm interweaving different narratives. I'm doing a kind of intellectual history as well. But this is how I work out my ideas now, is by embodying them, trying them out. Lauryn Hill, one of my all-time inspirations, right? Who says in that incredible, really unprecedented MTV Unplugged set, you know, from like, I always get the date confused, like the late 90s, early 2000s. It was Kurt Cobain with Nirvana Unplugged, and then Lauryn Hill. I mean, two of the biggest inspirations. And two people who actually, two artists, major artists, who actually are very similar in lots of ways, even though you wouldn't at first glance, right, assume it if you were mesmerized solely by the color line. I know I'm all over the place here. Okay, Google, what time is it?
It's 3:57 a.m. Daylight Saving Time.
We've got 3 minutes to go. And then I'm gonna grab some food. When I turned away from all that garbage out there, I had more time to work on myself and make sure I was right with myself and to make sure that I was right with my people as much as I could through my own volition and efforts and activities. But I also had more time to put into studying and learning about and thinking through how to not just resist, but eliminate anti-Blackness, white supremacy, heteropatriarchy, imperialism, ableism, misogyny, misogynoiry. That's my term there, but of course I'm not taking any credit for the term misogynoir. I can barely pronounce it. But hatred of Black women is real. Which is ridiculous because in all their infinite variety, heterogeneity, diversity, like we all are, like all beings are diverse. I can't, well, I can in fact think of for the most part, every Black woman that I've ever had an encounter with socially, right, in the world, by and large, they have been unbelievably wonderful, unbelievably brilliant, unbelievably knowledgeable and knowing, and unbelievably supportive, unbelievably honest, unbelievably themselves. And yet they continue, right, to get so much violence targeted at them across all registers of violence, because there's more than one, there's more than just what you see. We've now stepped out of the break. Okay, Google, what time is it?
4 a.m. Daylight saving time.
4 a.m. Okay, Google, louder. Okay, Google, what time is it?
It's 4 a.m. Daylight saving time.
Yeah. We're out of the break and we're in the wake. Okay, Google, what time is it?
It's 4:01 a.m.
And the
Daylight
clock's
saving time.
ticking, folks. The clock's ticking. So we gotta get a jump on it already and just keep moving forward. Okay? Black Lives Matter. Writing towards liberation and against tyranny. Okay? Focus. Okay? We got this, and we're just gotta keep it moving.